I think it's not. Oh, it is working now. So we're good to go? Yeah? Okay. So thank you so much for joining us today on this very important panel, Palestinian Cinema Under the Spotlight. Palestinian cinema has been in existence since at least 1935, and it's been an important part of the Palestinian struggle to have an identity and to discuss its territorial borders. As like a little aside, I just wanted to very quickly kind of explain how I first came into contact with Palestinian cinema. I moved to Jerusalem, Al-Quds in 2004. My husband was working for a big news agency, and I knew nothing about the conflict. I didn't know the sides or the sides of the sides, and I was kind of this like, had been covering the film industry in Europe, where you could just jump on a plane and cross borders, and everybody was like together. And I got to Jerusalem, and I met Anne-Marie Jassir, who was doing a program called Dreams of a Nation, and I met her, and I remember she was doing this whole program of Palestinian cinema, and it was there I understood how difficult it was to be a filmmaker in the territory. There I suddenly understood how difficult it was to get films up through checkpoints, or how sort of fragmented the different populations were. And I think they had Return to Haifa. It was a restored copy, and that's one of the very first movies. And at that time, I think it was the first year that, the year before, Palestine had an Academy, an Oscar submission. It was the first time you'd been allowed to have an Oscar submission with Elia Suleiman's. Was it Divine Intervention? Divine Intervention, yeah. So it was a really kind of seminal moment. And I know other people in the room, I don't know if Monahad's here, says there's another period of Palestinian cinema, which I don't know about, the 1970s and the 80s, but I'm not so sure of that period. But that was the period I joined and I started to understand. So I just wanted to introduce all our different panelists. We've got Mayo Day, producer. You've been working in the West Bank and have extensive sort of experience of working there. Mohammed Jabali, originally out of Gaza, made amazing movies out of there, Ambulance, and you're now working outside of there, obviously, but you've had incredible experiences there. Rakan Mayasi, your films are Bon Bonnet and Trumpets in the Sky. You've worked with. Have you worked with Abbas Kiarostami, or you studied him? You studied.
I did a workshop.
Okay.
So I did a workshop with him in South Korea.
Right, and Bellatar.
And Bellatar in Hungary, yes.
Yeah. And Shireen Dabas, you're American, Palestinian American. You have just had your film that's come out, All That's Left of You, that was just in Sundance, and America. And you've also had experience. You did Rami, but that's obviously not based in Palestine. But you've had experience of working in the States and also working in the Middle East and telling the Palestinian story, for the contemporary story and the past story. And Rasha Salti, you're a researcher, expert on Arab film, and you've had extensive experience of covering this, the Palestinian film cinema, and also programming it and showing it around the world. And then last but not least, sorry I'm here, Rashid Masharawi. You've made the incredibly important film, and I've just made about Gaza, about the Gaza artists. I think it's one of the few films to have come out of the region, out of the territory, since October 7th. And I'm just very interested to hear about that film and what you're trying to achieve. So just to start maybe with you, Rashid, I think, because you were like, maybe I'm not being ageist, but I think you might be one of the oldest filmmakers on the panel. I just wanted to sort of get a sense from you about, no, because you've had a longer experience and you've been telling the story for longer. I just wanted to get a sense from you about what it means to you to make a film, to be telling a Palestinian story, and why it's important to you as a director.
Yeah. Hi, bonjour, good morning. Yeah, I think it's very important. It was always important, but with the time and now, it's much, much more important, because to me, I'm from Gaza. I born and grew up in a Palestinian refugee camp in Gaza called Shati refugee camp in Gaza. And I don't think the Palestinians, we have a great economy or great military or good politicians. I think what we have, it's our culture, our identity, our art, our cinema. This is very important. I think this is what's kept us on the land now. Not because what we are doing, because who we are, because of the history. So cinema can take all that. Cinema can defend all that. Cinema can promote all that. I think this is very, very important. So all the time, I believe that we need bread and cinema to exist. This is me.
But growing up in Gaza, at what point did you realize that making a film could be something important for Palestinian identity and telling the story?
I realized that in the 80s, when I make my first film, and I was running all over the world to show my short fiction, and everybody tell me, no Palestine. We cannot, it was no internet, so they could not write in the catalog Palestine. I mean, they were searching for identity for this film. And I mean, it's okay, I try to make very short. I mean, one time in Washington, D.C., in a catalog where they wrote all the countries, it was the only short film from Palestine. So where they wrote France, Italy, Spain, Egypt, and they have problem what to write. And I was in a big discussing with the festival. I say, I'm Palestinian. It's a Palestinian film. It's Palestinian production, Palestinian money. So who I am, just tell me. So we compromise, and they wrote Palestine. It means Spain, France, Italy, a Palestinian filmmaker, Sweden, So my film became a nation. Yeah, and with my first feature film here in Cannes in '94, 31 years ago. The second here in the official selection, Haifa and certain regard. First time they put the Palestinian flag. So most of the people did not went to see the film. They went to see the flag. They have photos with the flag. So it was the act that Palestine exists through cinema. Yes. Yesterday, I was front of the Palestinian pavilions here. I was making my photos because I'm sending photos to Gaza to make people in Gaza participate with what's going on here. And I was thinking between me and myself, I saw America, I saw Tunis, Morocco, Jordan, Palestine, all flags. We are equal. And I know we have no state in Palestine. We have not, everybody know what we have there in the West Bank and in Gaza. But here, we have state. In cinema, we are equal. So it's very, I can talk about this hours.
Yeah, but thank you. It's a good start to the panel. But it's great. But it's a great start to the panel because it's kind of what we're saying about cinema being part of Palestinian identity now. So Mohammed, you grew up in Gaza, but did what Rashid did that kind of pave the way for you? What made you want to pick up a camera and make these films like Ambulance?
I mean, it's the same reasons. Like, I don't think it's different reasons because, like, you grow up in the same conditions. Of course, different generation because we are the generation who grew up was also like witnessing all the you know, from the day I was born, like till now, I think it's the same. And if I'm gonna make film, will be the same reasons as well. Being in Gaza, like, I mean, it's not like it didn't start only with just carrying the camera and running after ambulance, but of course it's a series of situations that led you also to, you know, see the surrounding. Unfortunately, I didn't want to show also what's like the damage or the destruction of our reality. I always wanted to show the beauty of our city and reflect on something that you don't see. And it's become very crucial, like also because it's today's reality, like what can you, like what we see today is just a reflection of, like, I don't know how many years it will take us also to be able to reflect the beauty that we wanted to share to the world. It's not only the destruction and the harsh reality that we lived and we're still living. I mean, I'm speaking, and also my heart is in Gaza. My dad and my siblings also there. The family are there, and it's just like for me, it's again the question: what is matter? Like if I make a film today or 10 years ago, if that won't change my reality. I don't want to make another film about the situation that doesn't help to stop what's going on, you know? It's just the fact that we don't want to lose that hope, even though we are reaching to the limit. I'm speaking of myself, because I need years to reflect on what's going on today and how many people that I lost over the last 2 years. And the grief that we wanted to be able to share maybe with the world. Maybe this is also became kind of healing. Making films became for me healing process of what I witnessed and I'm still living and witnessing. And I mean, since the day as maybe I was born, I would say there were no breaks. If you see the reality of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, it's every second year, every year maybe there is something like big happening. So it wasn't just suddenly happened and that's wow, the whole world stopped. So it's like, it's a continuation of the harsh reality that we live, and this is what we're trying to reflect on our human struggle that we're living today. I mean, some people ask me like the other day, will you make films about other stories or other, you know, like things? For example, I live in Norway and make films about the nature there. I would love to do that and also reflect that reality. But today, what occupied my mind and my body is the reality that we live today, and I can't escape from that or switch it or turn it off because it's following me wherever I go. So that's also what I share with Rashid and Rasha and all of you like here. It's just like how we deal with it also afterwards.
Yeah. So May, I wanted to come to you because I think one of the things from the outside people don't realize is kind of the different. I'm not saying Gaza and West Bank aren't connected, but they're just very territorially different, and people don't necessarily connect. Well, maybe now with Zoom and thing they can more. I always like to think of you more as a Ramallah, West Bank producer, filmmaker. Is that different? Can you explain that? You know, I mean, and obviously you're filmmaking, and you know what you're trying to express. Do you feel like it has a different, like, sort of tone from Gaza, maybe?
It's I don't know what to say, because as a Palestinian, I feel like when you make cinema, you need freedom. And in Palestine, you don't have this because we don't have a freedom of movement. You don't have a, like, we try very hard to have a freedom of speech as well, to make cinema that we like. But unfortunately, if I want, for example, to participate in a film with Shireen Daibis or Elia Sulaiman, or Hani Abu Asad, the films that will shoot in Nazareth or in Jerusalem or in Haifa, I can't, or in Gaza, because I'm locked in one territory, which is like really very small, you know, like you can't even move freely because we are locked inside one city. And this is what is occupation, you know, like when we say, like, the problem is not a war, like it's the problem that we are under occupation since forever. You know, and this is systematic occupation that they want us to be separated and fragmented, and this is how they wanted to let us also a different kind of identity and a different dreams, and that's why, like, I see a person from Gaza outside of Palestine, I'm not allowed to meet him, and the people from Haifa as well. I meet the first time people from Haifa is in Cannes, not in Palestine, because we can't have this kind of and this is against cinema, you know, because cinema needs freedom. You need to connect, you need to brainstorm, you need team, and I can't do a film just only with one territory, very very closed. But because we are Palestinians, and what I like about the Palestinian cinema, that we all the time try to think out of the box. How we can reach, how we can make films with Gaza, how we can make film. I sneaked to Haifa to make a film, Maradona's Legs. So I was really, and we did this a lot, you know, and we risk our life. But for example, I want to make sure that nobody will tell me what to do. You know, I believe in the cinema I want to make, and I believe in the stories, and no borders, no checkpoints, no one will tell me you are not allowed to film a Palestinian film called. And I did it. I did Maradona's Legs with a lot of risk. I took the public transportation with the luggage with 30,000 euros, and my heart was like beating like hard. And the bus stopped in Tel Aviv, in Jaffa bus station close to Tel Aviv, and I was like gonna collapse, because if someone just asked me, and I will collapse literally, but I went there, I was not allowed to use my Visa card, I was not allowed to drive. I did the film was very successful, and it's a Palestinian film.
Yeah, wow. I think
this is how we make cinema.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So I was like interested, Shireen, just about kind of you and Rakan, like your experiences of expressing a Palestinian identity and stories, but then not necessarily having grown up with it and, you know, physically there, and explaining to me how you do that and why it's so important to you. Because you could have easily just kind of become American and not really thought about it, or just it would have been just part of your heritage or something.
I don't think it's possible to be Palestinian and not think about it, especially, really, I mean, especially these days. But I grew up in a very, very proud household, and being Palestinian was at the forefront of our identity. I'm so grateful to my parents for that now. When I was a kid, it was a bit confusing because I grew up in small town Ohio, sort of between Ohio and Jordan, going back and forth, and that was confusing as well. But, you know, my first experience of traveling to Palestine, I was 8 years old, and we were held at the border, the Allenby border crossing between Jordan and the West Bank, for 12 hours. My baby sisters and I, all of us were strip searched. My sisters were 3 and 1 years old. My father was so humiliated. I just remember, like, his face just red with humiliation. He was yelling at the soldiers. They were yelling back at him. I was sure they were going to kill him. So it's not possible to not be Palestinian after an early experience like that. That experience defines who you become. And that was, for me, a turning point in my young life, because I finally understood what it meant to be Palestinian. Prior to that, I just grew up with adults who had such nostalgia for a place I'd never been to, and I didn't fully understand it. Except that, you know, my dad's second cousin was assassinated when I was 5, you know, so there were things that happened, and the news was always on in our household. We were always aware of what was happening in Palestine. And the moment you told anyone in the United States that you were Palestinian, because I was proud, and so I told people, you really instantly, the air was sucked out of the room. I mean, this was Ohio in the 1980s. No one knew what Palestine was, and if they did know, they wanted to know what you thought about what was happening over there. So you were instantly politicized. There was no escaping that. So I'm really happy for that experience now, because I'm Palestinian. Like that's what makes me feel Palestinian, even though I didn't grow up there. You know, my father was exiled in '67. I started traveling back on my own to make films. My first short film I shot entirely in Palestine, Arabic language, launched my career. And then I explored what it meant to be Palestinian in the diaspora in my subsequent features. And then I went back recently and made a film, again, it was supposed to be entirely shot in Palestine, but it's all Arabic language again, and really explores the Nakba, the ongoing Nakba. It's about, it's a story that, it traces the story of love and loss across 3 generations of one Palestinian family from 1948 until the present day. And so you really see the impact of all of the political upheaval on one family, but it's a story about survival. It's a story about one family's, struggle to survive decades of, everything we've been going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Arakan, I'd love to hear your experiences as well and how you...
Yeah. So I was born in Germany, and then my parents moved to Jordan.
Okay.
So this is where I grew up. And then I went to Lebanon to study cinema, because also my grandmother is Lebanese, so we had a house there. To me, I grew up being Palestinian. And, everyone around me was also trying to look for their identity. Among them, many Palestinians as well. I've never been in Palestine. It's not possible to go there for me.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to make films, so I decided to become a director when I was in school. So I went and I studied it. And I thought that it's such a wonderful thing to discover Palestine through cinema. Like, for me, it's a fantasy. Even like these shorts that you've mentioned, the genre in the shorts is a fantasy first and then something else. This I discovered after making the film even, because it's not allowed for me to go to Palestine. So let's see, how can I make this film? We have to recreate Palestine. We have to find the space again. And not theoretically. We have to make believe. We have to feel that we are there now. And like this short film, Bombone, I wanted to work with Saleh Bakri. And he's from Haifa. So he has the Israeli passport. And he's not allowed to come to Lebanon. So he had to make a Palestinian Authority passport, and his visa arrived 1 day before the shoot. So these are also struggles you don't think about when you want to make a film. And there's another short that you also didn't mention. It's called The Key. It was the most recent. It's a fantasy thriller. I wanted to shoot it in Lebanon as well, but then even with his Palestinian passport, Saleh, he couldn't come to Lebanon. So I had to relocate the whole production to Jordan 1 month before the shoot, while we began production in Lebanon. So it's these struggles, you don't think of them sometimes, but because we feel that there's this need to say this, to speak out and scream, that we continue doing this.
Yeah.
Even without resources or a lack of resources.
So Rasha, I'd like to bring you in here because obviously you're an academic and you're programming films, and you probably have a much more in-depth vision of this. I know some films than I do, and I was just wondering whether you can see, are there any observations about any kind of traits of Palestinian cinema? I mean, it's so diverse. It's kind of a crazy question, but I was just wondering whether you are, you do have sort of things.
Yeah.
Films.
So to understand Palestinian cinema, you have to first remember that the colonized were not supposed to make images of themselves, tell narratives of themselves, and certainly not make films about their reality. And if you look at the British Empire, the French colonial empire, they had rules and laws specific about the use of cameras by the colonized. So the miracle of Palestinian cinema is to, for the first time, invent a cinema for the colonized. From that premise, I mean, these guys, Rashid is part of the founding generation of Palestinian cinema. And so these guys, they were not supposed to make films, so they invented ways of making films. and they invented ways of, and the generations subsequent kept reinventing ways of making films. They also invented cinematic form. They broke so many rules. If you look at Tunisian cinema, or I'm talking about auteur cinema, not about commercial cinema, even Egyptian cinema, but the films that are meant to have an artistic vocation and a political vocation. Palestinian cinema, among all the cinemas in the region, is also the most diverse. It is the melodrama genre is present, but it's not melodrama. It's tragedy, melodrama, comedy, black comedy. It's at once the border between fiction and non-fiction was broken from the beginning. So it is a very potent, a very generative cinema. It keeps reinventing itself. As a film programmer, if we come back to this idea that the decolonized are not supposed to have a cinema, showing Palestinian films has always been an incredible experience. So when I talk about what it means to be a film programmer or curator, I always joke and say the two biggest lessons I had in my life was showing Palestinian films in New York, where I lived for a long time, and showing Palestinian films in Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon, where also I lived for a long time. In New York, the people who come to, mostly the audience interested in non-American cinema, are retired sort of intellectuals or retired people who have traveled the world. I like to think of them as State Department employees or maybe former CIA guys that have time, that have enough money to come and pay for the ticket to come to the cinema. What happens with Palestinian cinema is that it's disarming. It's disarming. People don't expect to see films that are so sophisticated, so humane, so funny, that basically change the power game or the relationships of power. The discussions after the films were invariably complicated, heated. What it teaches a film programmer is grace. You learn to become even more gracious, to make space for an audience that is either shocked or angry to come to accept what the filmmaker was trying to convey. This is invaluable. So I can say Palestinian cinema has made me a better person. Showing Palestinian films in refugee camps is another story. There is a thirst. I mean, I remember showing one of his films on a wall where there was a graffiti that said, "Jerusalem is ours, Al-Quds lana," in diagonal. And to please me, they painted over it, but it wasn't entirely erased. So the whole film had Al-Quds lana stamped on it. And then in the middle of the screening, we were on a rooftop. The call to prayer, the adhan, came out. They just stopped the film, waited, and I was freaking out. But it was normal. They waited, and then they played the film again. They have a thirst to see what Jerusalem looks like today, or Ramallah, or Gaza, etc. But at the same time, they tell me, can you show us also other Arab films? Like, we would like to also travel with cinema and see other countries, because they're not allowed to travel. And that is a tremendous lesson for me, and thinking what an audience wants, what an audience expects. In understanding Palestinian, where the motifs come from, especially that I do not live in Ramallah or Gaza, it's a reality that I don't know. It's very important to talk to the filmmakers, but I understood also that we have, whether in the US or in Germany or in Norway, or that we have this other miracle of a shared cultural heritage. And it includes, you know, cooking some dishes, but it mostly includes poetry. And one of the most beautiful things that I wrote about, is how Palestinian poetry also builds images. It's a very visual poetry. And very often it inspires or it shaped the imaginary of filmmakers. And so the images in their reference, in their head, is often a verse or a small part of a poem that describes a scene or that tells of an image. And that also creates icons, the olive tree, the well, so many other things. The last thing I would say is that we need to also remember all the time that Palestine was colonized and robbed, and we owe this to the incredible work of Elias Sambar, was also colonized and robbed from us through photography. With the birth of photography and the birth of cinema, the Frères Lumière, and so many church missions, the notion of a holy land, the notion of Jerusalem and Palestine not belonging to the people who lived there, was invented through photography. Because in the 19th century, when Darwin said the origin of, the genetic origin of life, when he defied the church wanted to prove that the Holy Land existed, and they sent hundreds and hundreds of photographers to represent Palestine as an empty place where people who lived there looked like what they think the characters in the Bible must have looked like. This is the first time, the beginning of Europe thinking of our country as a holy land that does not belong, where people do not have a life, where people do not produce things, have a train station or have a university or hospitals, etc. So cinema is at the heart of the struggle of liberation of Palestine.
So I thought the Lumiere brothers showed like life in Jerusalem. Did they do that too? I thought their imagery. I haven't seen loads of their extracts. So
there was an intention. I mean, the postcards that were sold. No, they brought people, they told them to dress in a particular way, stand in a particular way. They took out all the elements of modernity to
make it look more folkloric.
To make it not folkloric, to make it look like it was still stuck in Jesus' time.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, that's fascinating, thank you. So Rashid, picking up on that point, we're talking about kind of observations of what Palestinian cinema has been up until now, and you have your film fund, and you've been working with, continuing, I don't know if you're managing to do that now, but working with filmmakers in Gaza. What do you think the future is for Palestinian film, and what's kind of urgent? What do emerging filmmakers need, and what's the next step?
Yes, I mean, what we are doing now in Gaza out of the Mashrawi Fund, I cannot name it as a Palestinian cinema, because this comes out of the situation. It means we don't have the rules of any way of filmmaking or shooting or production. It means sometimes we have the idea, we start writing and shooting and editing at the same time in Gaza. I don't think it is a Palestinian cinema. It's the result of what's going on now in Gaza, because it did not happen in any production in the world that you contact people and you say, the person who will deliver the hard disk from Rafah to Khan Yunis, is he still alive? It means, 3 days searching for electricity to charge camera or batteries or whatever, searching for one director and we don't know where he moved for the 5th times, editing in tents, editing in France, fighting with sound of zanana, what we call drones. Yeah. It's not a cinema. It's a reaction for the situation. But I insist to make out of this cinema. I mean, to make the result filmmaking, to make these filmmakers in Gaza, who is at the same time they are busy to save their own life, to search for food, for electricity, to move. They have to think cinema. It means because all the time I say cinema can add. All the world watching the television, everything. But what we can do also parallel all that in Gaza. So we did the untold stories. We did only personal stories. And we open for filmmakers not only to express their own experience of life, their own cinema also, because out of the 32 films that we produced in Gaza, we have fictions, we have documentary, we have experimental films, we have animation, we have video art, we have films with marionette. All was done during the war and under the war. So to organize all that, already in December 23, this means 2 months after 7 October or something like this, I established the Marché Film Fund to support films and filmmakers in Gaza. And it's only in Gaza. I'm working with around 20 advisors in Gaza and outside Gaza and in Europe and in Arabic countries to share information with these filmmakers, to develop stories with them, to deal with showing these films, because it wasn't urgent to show all the time. You know, Gaza, everybody know, Gaza, it means no journalists there, no press there, only the Gazan press, and they are targeted. Yesterday, the number became 222 of journalists who was targeted. They were killed because they are filming, not because they are there. So I think I wanted to create kind of a window to the outside world to look at the small details of the daily life inside Gaza in an artistic way. Because I mean, the aim is not only to make films, it's also to train these people to be filmmakers, to share these stories with the world, to show in an important film festivals, because last year we had an event here in Cannes about From Ground Zero. We were selected in many important festivals. We were shortlisted for the Oscar with the films who were made under the bombing in Gaza. So we are adapting ourselves to the situations, because once we start, we thought this war will be 1 month, maybe 2, and it's long. Now we are 6, maybe 10, and now we are almost 2 years, and things are still going on. And the Marché Fund decided, as long as the war going on, our cameras in Gaza will keep going on, and the world outside will keep watching stories from Gaza.
Yeah.
This is what we are doing right now.
So I just, Mohammed, also Rashid, I mean, the Gaza population, there were at the beginning of the war 1,000 journalists. And I think, I'm not sure now, but a lot of people have left. My husband works for Reuters, so I know some of those people. I feel like in Gaza there's this really strong understanding of the power of the image, and they're not necessarily cinema filmmakers, but I think people have a very strong understanding of how important it is to capture stuff. But that doesn't necessarily translate into cinema. But can you maybe talk about that?
I mean, it's a response of what they see and the reality that they live as well, and we live from afar. I think it's like it's I would say self-taught situation that we see on the ground, and as Rashid mentioned, over 220 journalists being killed, but not journalists only. I have friends who were filmmakers who lost their life or they were killed during this massacre. And many of them who, for example, Aboud, who participated in filming my last film, Life is Beautiful, documenting the return of me to Gaza. He was also killed a year ago on the 14th of March, and so we have so many, Rushdie, many other friends. And I mean, I don't want to count because like all of them has stories, have life. I mean, and also like you, it's just the fact that like this, like the camera have become a escape tool to be able to be busy with like something to do during these days and keep you going. Like it keeps you like also like, you know, narrowing the frame into the camera frame. It just became kind of for you to look into the details of life that our people living. And that's like what I see like is fascinating, how many journalists or filmmakers managed to enter Gaza over the last 2 years? None. Like few, like, I mean, maybe barely like UN, for just like a period of time, and then they're not allowed to document what they, and like, so how our people or filmmakers or journalists, whatever you want to name them, manage to capture this raw images of this ongoing genocide, and how we still, I mean, until today, you still see like what's, I mean, we were here a year ago, and we hope this year we will be able to push like for also like maybe let's say to have the moment that we also living a ceasefire, let's say, but it didn't happen. I mean, we all have the hope that after this ceasefire we will be healed, and then like on the 18th of March, when they violated the ceasefire by killing about 350 people in one day, it's just the amount of people that we, like, the number is so high that you cannot just repeat it or say it. I mean, it hurt me when I say 200. It's just like I also, and that's what is also happened in the, today. We all get used to all these images, like, and what we see today is so dangerous, because when you see blood, it shouldn't be normal. When you see a destruction, it shouldn't be normal. And now we see it on our phones, and then we swab and we search for it, and then this is not the normal situation that we should be. Like, I mean, also all the TV channels now push their like boundaries of showing more blood, because their audience complaining of like, you're not showing us the truth. Because in social media, we saw all these raw images that now it's set a limit or set like a standard for our view. How can we, what we gonna do? What film I'm gonna make next? So I'm gonna show like more like of these images, and this is also, but it was important to document what's going on, and it's still very important to, I mean, people also give each other their camera. Like if I die today, my camera will be given to my brother, to my sister, to my friend, and that's the, maybe it's difficult. I mean, it's so sad to say that, and it's very difficult for me to say that, but that's the reality, and that's like something that we will continue. Like Rashid he was joking yesterday, you are the new generation, and like, I mean, of course, I'm proud to be the next generation who carry this responsibility. Of course, if we were allowed to continue this, because we also, there is a limit also, like how much is too much of what we all living.
Yeah, no, totally. So sorry to kind of go back to, and after you've just spoken about this, it's hard to carry on this conversation, but I just was wondering from all of you on the stage, I know you said it's difficult to process what's happening, but May, what are you working? I mean, I feel like there is a post this period, and it's changing how people are viewing reality. And yeah, what are you working on? You know, how you next, and what dealing with it?
Well, just like to say, we are so angry. This 2 years was really difficult, and we are angry, and we don't forgive as well the whole world that they left the Palestinian alone. But I always say that the Palestinian filmmakers, that they are the Ministry of Defense of Palestine. Because we've seen that how the media, international media, just also fought Palestine with the propaganda images. So our responsibility as a filmmakers and a people from Gaza and people inside Palestine and all around the world is to produce the real image of Palestine that shows the world. I hope this word will awake one day. And this is kind of a huge responsibility in a way. As the Palestinian Film Institute and the Palestinian Film Platform, we created the first thing after what happened in Gaza. The first thing we did, a collection of films about Gaza, because we really, it was really hard for us to feel that they are really fighting us with the image, like destroying the image of Palestine and the Palestinians. So we wanted to reply with cinema, to show films about Gaza produced by Palestinian and not Palestinians, to show them the real image, the real story that they are trying to deny and to hide. You know, so we and to create kind of solidarity all around the world. And it was really amazing that to see how people reacted with these films, to see and to kind of take it everywhere in the world, that we didn't, because to be honest, we needed this solidarity as well, like to have these people connected with our case. As a filmmaker and producer, now we have to also digest what Palestine we want to show, what story we want to tell, because the scar is very deep and it's hurting, and the images we saw every day see every day in our mobiles and social media, it's heartbreaking. So what kind of story you want to tell? Yeah, what really this film that it can capture for later on, and it can document and archive time. And for example, Rashid, you were here in the 90s, like fighting for Palestine to be in Cannes. Like we have a project in La Fabrique with Rakan Mayasi called The Passport, and unfortunately we had the same discussion until now. And unfortunately, they just bought Palestinian territories and not Palestine. And it was a huge discussion because, you know, like they wanted to, maybe they want to recognize Palestine as a country in June. So they can't put Palestine in May. So it was ridiculous, you know, and it's like really heartbreaking that to keep all the discussion about artistic head and to fight to put Palestine. And unfortunately, they put Palestinian territory in the catalog. And it's really, really heartbreaking. But doing this film, doing also with the absurd reality that we are talking, and to make humor, because for us humor is an act of resilience and resistance, and this is what we want to do with our films, because for us this is how we want to make it. We resist with our cinema.
I have to say that's something I've always found extraordinary in a lot of Palestinian films, the humor, the very quiet humor.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to say that you know, with this new war, we have witnessed Palestine become a defining cause for a generation. Students across university campuses took a great deal of risks, and some of them are paying a very high price for their support of our cause. In the film industry, I really want to say that there are producers across Europe and North America that have endorsed the cause, that are deeply involved in Palestinian cinema. It's really important that we express our gratitude, because like a few of them are in this room actually, and I just want to salute them and thank them for what they are doing for Palestinian cinema.
So I do want to throw it to the... I do want to just throw it to the room as well, but do you want to add just what you're working on? I mean, you've just finished a film, how you're processing it, how you think you're going to deal with this in the future, in future films, because it's such a sort of...
there's so much to say.
And Ken as well.
I was supposed to shoot my most recent film in Palestine, and we prepped the entire film there for 5 months. I was there for 5 months. A lot of my crew, some of them were there for 3 months, and then my foreign crew had just arrived. We did our tech recce, where, you know, you go to every location that you've chosen for the film and you walk the crew through all of the shooting plans. And the next morning we woke up to what happened on October the 7th. And a few days later, you know, all of the foreign crew was forced to evacuate. I had to get everyone out. fleeing was absolutely devastating. Leaving behind the Palestinian crew who was so invested in the film was absolutely devastating. And then I had to start from scratch, which is, you know, unheard of. You start prepping all over again. You have to raise more money. I started, you know, had to look for Palestine everywhere but Palestine. Had to recreate Palestine in Cyprus, Greece, and Jordan. The film took almost a year and a half longer than it was supposed to. And then I found myself making a movie about what was happening as it was happening. So it was an incredibly intense, fraught experience that is very specific to being Palestinian at this moment in time. But the movie really became a container for my cast and crew, and we just poured ourselves into it. Our love, our compassion, our grief, all of it is in the film. So I'm now, as you said, it premiered at Sundance. It's just, you know, it's still having its festival circuit life. We plan to release in a lot of territories in the fall. And my job right now is just to see that movie out into the world in the best way I can, because it's tremendously important to me that people watch it, especially given everything that's happening. And I think that given, you know, seeing people's response to the film has been incredibly heartening. It's been just very eye-opening for people, you know, especially watching it premiere in North America, you know, where I had people come up to me who don't know a lot about what's happening. And they were weeping, saying, I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't know. They just kept repeating, I didn't know, I didn't know. And the movie just opened their hearts in a way that I was hoping it would. So I really want to do everything I can to get this movie out into the world as widely as possible, and hope that we continue to turn the tide and change the narrative through our cinema. We've made progress for sure, but we've paid an enormous cost for that progress in the last couple of years. So we're all really a little just, I think, still shocked and processing. I don't think that we really are able to understand what we've been through, especially for those of you who are there and who have family there. But there's still an enormous amount of work to do. Yeah. You know, people may be changing, but the people who have the power are not changing, or they're too scared to speak up, and there's a tremendous amount of censorship.
Yeah. So Raka, just gonna thank you. Just so if you'd like to talk as well, and then I'll try and get a couple of questions in as well. But what are your plans?
Just recently, I shot my first feature film in Lebanon without a script, with non-professional actors. And first of all, I wanted to initiate the production, but then the Israeli war happens on Lebanon. And then when the war ended, I went to go and shoot. And when we started the production, you could still hear the drone all the time. I had to go ask the sound designer, the sound recordist, if we are able to remove this frequency, because it's with us all the time. We're filming in the valley and the mountains, and we'd repeat some shots because we'd hear Israeli airplanes bombing just behind the mountain. And that you cannot remove. You have to repeat it, especially if there's dialogue. So that was the experience recently, but we're now, we are pitching our Palestinian feature film called The Passport. And I mean, it comes also out of this anger towards the injustice on the global stage of freedom of movement. I mean, just it pisses me off to see that some people need a visa, some people cannot take a visa also. And some people don't need a visa. So this is basically, in a nutshell, this film we're trying to make.
Thank you, thank you. So I think we've got quite time for like 1 or 2 questions if anybody wants to ask something from the floor. Do I need to get, is there a mic? Is anybody handing out mics? Just down, just here, just there.
Salam. Thank you guys for sharing your truth, both the heartbreaking pieces as well as the inspiration. Very powerful words. Muhammad, I really liked your point about, you know, shooting film in Palestine. You want to share what the horrors are happening because it's the reality. But if we look at a world where there's peace in the region and Palestine is free when that happens, just open question audience, what would you love to share about Palestine, and what film would you love to discuss or shoot about the beauty of the region?
I mean, how Palestine freed the world. I mean, yesterday I heard this, like, I don't know if we can put all what we feel in one film. It will be beautiful, but maybe also sad and tragedy. But also it will maybe end with hope. That's what I see in my heart, like a hope of a better tomorrow for us all, for the reality that we live for. And that's why I'm here and we are here today, is to show you also the other side of Palestine that you don't see. And please, we invite you all also to come to our Palestine Pavilion 202. It's a bit far, but not so far. But you walk with love and come, and we will will share more with you about what we're doing, what we also what's coming, and we have a showcase for 4 beautiful documentaries on Monday at 11:45. So you will also know more about what the current status of our Palestinian filmmakers and non-Palestinian filmmakers, because we invited for first time for our showcases like filmmakers who make films on Palestine, and that's also what we want to show to the world, that we are able also to help others to share their stories, and also we wanted to be heard, and that's why we are here today again.
So, any other questions? No? Sorry? Yeah, does anybody else want to say anything about what they might make in another world? But it's really hard to think about another world right now, but that's not...
Yani, I don't think the question is what we want to show from the Palestinian cinema, what we want from the world. We are filmmakers. We like cinema. We are there because first we are filmmakers. I can be Chinese and making films. So by accident, I'm a Palestinian and I'm making films. We are making films first because we love cinema. I don't think being a Palestinian victim under the Israeli occupation, refugee, all this will not help us to make cinema. It will help us to make cinema if we think cinema. It means this can help Palestine if we are first filmmaker. I believe things changed since before Gaza until after Gaza. Also, it will influence our narrative and our projects. I can talk about myself personally. 40 years I'm making films, activities, workshops. I make film festivals, I make mobile cinema, I establish Palestinian Cinema Production Center in Ramallah to tell the world one simple thing. We are also like you. We are also a human being. We are also artists. I mean, we are equal. We need what you have. We need state. We need a passport. We need freedom. We need justice. Today, after Gaza, if I talk about myself, I don't think I am in the same situation. I have no time to spend to describe or to prove our own humanity for a world who failed to prove to me his own humanity. It's not possible. So I want to work with the Palestinians. Probably I will establish out of Mashrawi Fund in Gaza a Palestinian film school for the first time to give the Palestinians, there is a project like that going on, to give these young Palestinians, the new generations, to tell their own stories. My dream more to turn the Palestinian cinema as an action, not as a reaction of what the Israeli will do. If we are going to do each film after each massacre, a film, we need to make 50 films a day now in Gaza. And we have no time for that. We are going to use our beautiful culture, our beautiful people who have beautiful painting, dancing, music, our tradition, our dress, our rhythm, our colors, our food, everything. we can make out of this beautiful cinema, parallel all what's going on, because this is for me to turn the Palestinian cinema more and more as an action, and also to influence the new Palestinian generations to think cinema. Because all the Palestinian films, for me, they are Palestinian cinema, and they are not in Palestine. There is another map, of a humanitarian map, of film making for Palestinian cinema. The Palestinian cinema, they are in Lebanon, in refugee camps. They are in Syria. They are in Jordan. They are in America, in Australia, in Europe, all the Excel. They all Palestinian cinema, Palestinian experience, different schools. It helps us. Even it helps the Palestinian cinema to be more experimental. We don't have cinemas in Palestine. We don't have industry. So direct, we are making films to show the world outside Palestine. So we need to be in this level. So I want any new Palestinian film to be in a competition in Cannes, in Berlin, in Venice, in Oscar. Even parallel what's going on in Gaza, because by this, I think, we will be more exist. And by this also, we should stop now in 2025 telling we are also a human being. We made films about love stories. I produced films about love stories during the war in Gaza. And 5 months ago, we have films like that. It's about love. And the people watched this and they were shocked because they say, hey, they are really amazing. Yes, time for love. Thank you.
So you're going to say, yeah, then I'm going to wrap it. So go. Yeah.
I just want to add, there's a lot of great energy out of what's happening, especially with filmmakers. They want to support. We want to show Palestine and Palestinian stories and to recreate our narrative. But also, we have to face that we are living in a world which going really far right, and politicians are really decreasing the funding, and programmers are really afraid to take Palestinian films and Palestinian stories in their. It's really it's challenging for us. I guess it was difficult for a Palestinian filmmakers to make films before, but now it's going to be more challenging as well, because the whole politics in the whole world is like this, doesn't want to see Palestinian films or films from the world, you know. So I guess what the Gaza situation teach us also, how as a Palestinian filmmakers we need to produce outside of the box. We don't need these governments. We don't need this money. We need to create our own funds, our own solidarity funds to make sure that nobody will censor us about our stories. And this is really another struggle, a big struggle, because I'm not sure distributing our films and producing our films will be easy.
Well,
we have to face it. I'm sorry.
I hope you're not right. I hope there will be resistance.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
I think we've come to the end of. Have we come to the end of our time? We're fine. Stop. Have I got to stop? I don't. If I'm allowed to have another question, no, I've got to stop. I'm really sorry. We can come and talk to. I'm sorry. I've just been told to stop because it was. Anyway, all of you can go to the Palestinian Film Institute stand over in the Pantiero, where they're having events every day. And you can meet people there. There's lots of filmmakers there. I want to say thank you to the Arab Cinema Centre as well for organising this. It's been a really, really fascinating conversation. And thank you all of you sharing everything on me. Thank you.
I want to thank you all. Yeah, I want to thank you all because I thought